Hi everyone. So I am back. I like to hop straight into it. I haven't been posting videos in a while, but when I do, I like it to be something of substance, and I've officially decided what I want to do like a mini series about because I feel like it's just been put on my heart a long time, but I kind of been pushing it off, but it's been hitting closer and closer to home. And I actually watched a video, I think it was on Instagram, it was maybe on Instagram or Facebook, and it was like this woman, and she was 40 years old. Well, she's 40 years old, and she was just kind of crying and like really hysterical at the fact that she was like reflecting on her life, and she felt like she hadn't accomplished anything. And that made me feel like really bad because life is literally like it's a deep thing. Life is as deep as you make it. Some people make it simple and shallow just because that's the way they think. But on the grand scheme of things, it's pretty deep. And when that depth hits you and you have like the understanding of it and you start to kind of look around, and when you get older, it's just like, wow, I really do need to make the most of my time here and not bury my talents. Like that's something I've been big on lately, and which is why I was kind of like convicted in a way to make this video, because I have these talents that God has blessed me with, and I just don't want to bury them. And I really do like love to help people. And I wanted to go outside of, like, I used to work in finance and I help people. And even when I work like in collections and things like that, I would help people to make these like plans and get resources and get on not just payment plans, but like to really kind of put like their life in the grand scheme of things. So obviously sometimes my weakness was like call time, because I was genuinely using that time to help people, anyone that would listen, to kind of see their life in a different point of view, to make better decisions, to pay their bills, yes, and make a plan for that. But then it's like, what are you going to do moving forward? And through that, and just like building my own life and getting knowledge, seeking knowledge, getting it, and like just kind of observing other people's lives in a way from a distance, and just people's decision making abilities, it really made me put things into perspective and like see where the pain point of a lot of people in the world is. And it comes down to like decision making and lifestyle choices, because sometimes you can honestly have too many choices and you can get like overwhelmed or lost. And it's so many people who get, like the grass is greener on the other side. I want to call it a syndrome, and like jealousy should be like a syndrome or something. But they get these things, these like jealousy traits and tendencies, looking at other people's lives, and it doesn't make sense to me. Like jealousy doesn't make sense to me, because you're jealous of something that someone else has that you don't have, but it might be a blessing for them but not a blessing to you. And I'm sure you can say, oh well, if someone has money and you don't, you can be jealous of that. But at the same time, it's like, no, you can't be jealous of that, because if you don't know how to use the money or how to keep money, then you having money would essentially result in you not having any money. So you're being jealous of something that you can't even keep and maintain. So that doesn't make sense for like who you are as a person. Now, when you get to that point of being able to be better with money, if that makes sense, then it's like you have no reason to be jealous of it, because you have it and you know what to do with it. So it makes sense for you and you can handle it, because some things people want they can't handle, or it actually doesn't even like make sense with their life or the lifestyle they chose. It's kind of trivial and childish when you think about it. But that's my little rant. And I'm going back to the reason I'm here. And I do have like my little notes. I'm actually going to rip this out, but I have my notes because I don't want to go off on too many mini TED Talks. So, so basically, with my plan overall, to let you know, kind of going back to it, is to provide a template. So I'm gifted in being able to organize things and to build a life. And a lot of people forget home economics and just make how to, or they don't know how to make a house a home. Like, yes, finance is very important. I studied finance in high school, and from that point on, like moving forward, even to this day, I study finance and learn things to stay up to date and what makes sense for my lifestyle. And it's like so much information, but you have to be able to pick and choose what makes sense for your life, where you're going, what you want. And so, in a way, I've mastered that. And then just being like super organized to make a plan. So, I'm good at making plans and organizing and collecting information and making sense of it, but in a simpler way, because there's so many like things that you can use big words and have these conversations, and it's stimulating to the mind, which is good. But also being able to take something very complex and making it simple is what, when I was working before, I was paid to do and called in to do in certain areas. And it's quite a blessing actually to be able to do that, because while some stuff being simple, it seems like, oh, that's easy to get. But some of the simplest things are the hardest things to do, because for some people, it's simple to organize your room. But to other people, it's so hectic, so chaotic, and they don't know where to start with organizing. But for me, I have a 10-minute tidy up. So my baby can throw her toys everywhere and play with everything and make a mess of her room and the area in like 10 minutes. And I can see it and I'm like, wow, this is a big mess. But I'm not overwhelmed by it, because within that mess, it's organized chaos, because everything has a place. So in 10 minutes, sweep through, put everything back in its place. So my mind works in that way, and it makes it simple. Like something that might seem complex becomes simple. And I can also take something that's really complex, I mean, really simple, and make it complex, if that makes sense. So I want to teach people how to do it. And I'm taking out the fluff. I like to just take out the fluff, like take what you need and throw everything else to the side, because if you don't really need it, why is it here? I feel like that kind of demotivates a lot of people to progress and move forward with the plan, when it's like so much other fluff around. Like, what's the point? Okay, it's like, get to the point, you know? So we're going to get to the point. Now, the templates will just basically be a couple sheets. I'm going to put it in workbook form, and then kind of like apply a few videos and just do it in a really cool way, and not trying to spill the beans. But that'll be coming later on, like next month actually, when the whole series will roll out with the templates and everything. So I was once talking to I'm trying not to like expose people's information. So, someone in my family, and they were actually like asking me, like, how do I put myself in a mindset that I've never been, to like overcome this, but like successfully, with like a success, with a victory mindset that I've never had, but I'm trying to get from a point that's really hard for me, to like not let this pain take me under, but be on top of it, which is a really great question. And it all comes down to your mindset, your posture, and like really your faith in God. And so it's just like you have to see something for what it is. So that's the first start. That's the first step, actually, which is going into the mental space that you've never been in, or that you've never learned, because a lot of people's parents don't sit them down and teach them, okay, if you want to be, they tell you, get a job, get a career. Well, get a career. I was always taught a career is better than a job. So you get a career, you work really hard, you get a house, you pay your bills, but it's so many in between steps, and then different things that come up, because now we're more aware of, and we put the label to, it's like your lifestyle. So what lifestyle do you want to live? Do you want to travel? Do you want to like, travel and see the world, or do you just want to travel locally in the state that you're in and explore the hidden gems, or and go on staycations? Or are you a collector? Do you want extra money to be able to collect some of your favorite things? Or you foodie, like different things with your life? Or are you just like a saver? And then it's like, what are you saving for? It's like, I don't care about doing anything. I'm like a homebody, and I just want my home to be cozy. So, okay, you're just trying to figure out what it is that you want, and sticking with it. Because if your goal is always moving and what you want is like it's not definite, then I feel like you can't really evolve, because what are you evolving towards, if that makes sense? So number one, it's like, what is your desire? Like I just said, what's your desired goal? What's the objective? So my example for me was when I was living in Michigan, like as a little girl, I always knew in my heart that one day I was going to live in California. And I just felt like God just aligned it all on the day. I think I was in like maybe the I had to be in middle school. So I want to say like sixth grade, or it was either fifth grade or sixth grade. And I remember us having like pen pals and out of like all the states. And so we like did this draw to see where in the world we would find a pen pal, because they had already like had pen pals set up like in each state, so we could just kind of pull, and then wherever you picked in the like the 50 states or whatever, then you wrote there and you sent information about the state that we were in. So I'm from Michigan. And so we sent information about Michigan to wherever we were going. I pulled California. When I started to do my research and I learned about California, I just saw how big it was and how beautiful it was, because my mom used to always tell me, like, you have these grandiose dreams, like these huge dreams. And I actually did. And so having big dreams made me have like big faith. And there was literally nothing you could tell me, like, especially as a little girl, was nothing you could tell me. Like, I had my eye on the prize. I was getting that prize no matter what. And yeah, you could say what you're going to say. And I'm just like, it wasn't even a thing of like trying to prove somebody wrong. It was all about me. Like it was really all about me. Like, yeah, I want this. You kind of like sidebarring it, but don't care. Tunnel vision. And when I learned about California, I had tunnel vision, and I literally told my teacher, like, I love California and I'm gonna live there. And she just looked at me and she was like, you know what, Christina? Yes, you will. You can live in California. It's literally nowhere in the world you can't live. You can go anywhere. And I was like, thanks. And it's like that was the when if you were on my side, that was the approval I was like sticking to, and anybody that was opposed to it, I didn't really hear it. So I was like, oh yeah, so like I got the green light. Like California is a go. And then life goes on, and you have different interests or whatever, but just like always in the back of my mind and in my heart, I'm like, I'm gonna go to California one day. So naturally, I I loved like model. I wasn't like an entertainer, but I did like, modeling and different things like that. All these things that still align with the makeup of like the characteristics, I should say, of California. And so I'm like, yeah, this is going to be great. I have something to offer to California, and just to take it in and see the beaches and go acting. And I learned about the SAG-AFTRA building and like getting credits and just everything. And my grandma, I miss her so much. And she would just, teach me about these things. And then when I've had an interest in law, she's like, we'll go into entertainment law, because we still kept that foundation of the goal, the objective. It's like, Christina wants to go to California. Let's keep these little things and little interests aligning with that. So it's like subconsciously, she doesn't forget, I guess. So I didn't. And fast forward, I go to high school, I went to college. You would think my first college would be in California, but it wasn't, because when I got into fashion and I was like, doing styling and modeling and everything, I was like, okay, I want the biggest and the best. And California was a little bit on my radar, but not all the way, because my grandma's like, New York is where you need to go for fashion. We're going to do New York, or we're going to do Paris. And I wanted to live in Paris, but I didn't want to live in New York. I just wanted to visit New York. And so, but I love Sex in the City. So I'm like, I could kind of Sarah Jessica Parker it out, like, Sex in the City vibe. But I was still like, nope. And California aligned with what God wanted from me. So it happened. So I went to Kentucky actually for school, and then Kentucky was not for me. Went back to Michigan, and when I went back to Michigan, that's when I started to make my official plans, like as an adult, to get to California. So, long story short, I ultimately stuck to that, got to California, and then going to California led me to Texas, because God brought me here. But I feel like I had to go to California to get to Texas. Like it just all was supposed to happen that way. and it still was like what I wanted. And even when I was in California, it's like I knew I wanted to get there. I got there, but I never wanted to like start a family there. I know it sounds so crazy. I never want to start a family there. I didn't know where I was going to start my family. I knew in my heart it was going to be in Michigan. And then when I got to California, I knew it wasn't going to be in California. And God just aligned me right on to Texas. So that's how I was able to keep that foundation of like my goal, my objective. I got there. And I had to think about what I needed to get there. So I learned that pretty fast. And I'm going to kind of like jump points because in high school, well, actually in middle school, our school always, and even my parents, like my dad more so pushed it. He's like, well, when you're in school, that's your career. Like you going to school, getting good grades, and making smart decisions, that's your career. That's your only responsibility. And my mom is just like, she co-signed that. She's like, this is your responsibility. You get good grades, so you can get a good job, so you can be brilliant. Like just get your education so you can get a good job and have a career. So I believe that those type of conversations and building that foundation, it actually starts really young, because when you're in middle school, you're like kids, people forget that kids are growing to be adults. Like yes, they're going through childhood, but you're going through childhood to ultimately end up being an adult. And so you have to kind of learn to be an adult, not parifying the kid or, you know, putting on responsibilities to children that they don't need to have, but just the thought process and the mindset, so it can kind of start to click and make sense later, because it's exposure in a way to thinking like that. So I had that like exposure, and then just naturally I was kind of like that. I was always like a really organized kid, and I just knew what I wanted. So in middle school, I picked what high school I wanted to go to. And my mom was working, and she's just always like, busy with that, but still had my back and made time for me. And my dad moved to a different state, but I could always call him and just let him know. And my grandma had my back. But my thing was like, I was always trusted to just make a decision, to know what I want. And it's like, okay, she's going to go after it. We're going to have her back. And that's all I needed. So when I chose my high school, I sat down, I had my mom, I thought about what I needed. In that point, I needed the packet, the application. I got the application. I needed my parents' signature. I needed to fill out certain information, and I needed a pen, and I needed the computer. So I gathered everything that I needed. I filled out my application. I typed up my entrance letter, and I told my mom the date. I needed my calendar. I told my mom the date to just take me to school. That's literally all my mom did, was take me to my interview for my school. And I went to DSA. I love that school. Shout out to DSA and Nataki. I went to Nataki for middle school. So I was going from Nataki to DSA. And when I went there, I went into music technology, and he was so impressed with my letter. He's like, wow, you're brilliant, little girl. Like he called everybody little girl, little boy. So I'm like, okay, thanks, Mr. White. And then shortly after, I got like accepted, and I was actually like, I don't know if many people know it, but I was like the vice president of the record label. Like that's what he told me I was. And so I was looking up different contracts and just kind of like on the sideline looking up information. Like my first year, actually in ninth grade, that's what I was looking up and sending him the contracts and things like that. And so it went from that to going into vocational school when it was presented to me and some of my friends, and studying finance because I was going to go into culinary arts. But culinary arts was like a passion, but my principal saw beyond my passion, which was really great. And it lined me up for success later on down the line, but still thinking about the overall goal, because I also knew the lifestyle that I wanted to live. And I had seen people driving nice cars, and I knew the world was bigger than Detroit in my backyard, and that I can actually not just dream big and think big, but achieve big and live big and get there. And I was content with the process. Like that's another thing that should be taught, is contentment. So you need to identify where you are, accept it, and not in a pity, woe is me type of way, but in a like, okay, I'm content with this, because growth is possible and success is obtainable. if you know what you want to succeed in. So I pieced those things together and I was content with my process of growing. And I also you have to kind of realize it's not like putting yourself in a child's place, but in a way, yes, because I would look at myself and say, like, okay, this is a phase. I'm literally a teenager. So, yes, I'm hanging out with my friends doing X, Y, and Z, but still, not going too far off from the plan. But I never like beat myself up about different things because I'm like, okay, this will pass, and God just kept me. And I just had that like sense that this is the phase, get through it, still stick to your plan. And my parents were always, and my neighbors and stuff, and I wrote that in my book, like different people would kind of ask me like, hey, what's your plan for life? Like, what do you dream of? What do you want? So that also helped. I was blessed with that along the way. So I want to be here to have these conversations. So hopefully, kids that are younger and parents can kind of show the videos, or a kid will run into this video and you think about what you want and what are you dreaming about? Like, what do you think of yourself? What do you think of what you're doing right now? Where will what you're doing now have you later? So we're thinking about things like that, because if you don't, and if you don't think ahead, when you get there, when you get what seems like is, when you get to the point of where what seems to be so far away today, and it's like literally in your face and you're living in that moment and you're not prepared for it, it sucks so bad and you feel so far behind. But when you had a chance to be ahead, you didn't allow yourself to be there. And don't let other people tell you not to think far ahead when they have these limiting thoughts for themselves and try to limit you. Because in a way, to me, that's kind of like a test from the enemy to kind of keep you where you are, to see if you'll accept these limiting thoughts, to keep yourself like basically a crab in the bucket, crab in the barrel type of mentality. It's like, well, you stayed down here with us and not rise above, because we already told you that, this bucket cap's right there. So don't you think anything is above the rim besides hot water? Because that's not true. That's not true, because just let you know, we're people, not a crab in the bucket. So, um, so what do you need to get there? And then mapping out the best way to get, based off of where you are, to get where you want to be. So, and then off of like what you have. So, the best way to get to where you want to be from where you are is to do an inventory of your life. So that's what I did. It's like, what do you have? What do you need? What do you want? And the wants are more so tied to like the goals and things like that. But what do you have? What do you need? And what do you want? You lay those out. And it's not based off of like, oh, I'm going to pick somebody else's life. It's like, what will make you happy or content? Okay. Because being content is not a bad thing. And being happy is a good thing. You deserve to be happy. So what will make you happy or content? Just to kind of reduce these things down, because we're making choices, right? So we map this out. The way that you map it out is by laying it out, writing out all these things. Now, the way that I like to do it to see things more clearly is to have an inventory of your life. Now, that does take time. So I do it in different categories, but it's all mapped out in a different way. And it's not the typical map where you write like a brain, like some people do maps. There's so many ways to do maps, but it's more so like really just writing it out in lines, but it all makes sense and not like a web of anything, because that can be confusing. So just kind of writing it out plain and simple. So, and you'll see that in the template. So I hope you all do support me and support yourself with getting the templates when they do come out. I might give like a little, I don't know if I want to call it a spoiler, but like a glimpse of what one looks like. And then I'm also going to go over it so we can discuss it as you go. You can pause the video and take time to fill in like each one, because I really want people to get where they're trying to go and to be happy or content with where you are, and know it's a good thing. And that's how I feel like, when you do, even if you do, become happy or content, and if your plan can get you from being 100-aire to 1,000-aire to a millionaire or a billionaire, like even when you reach what you consider your highest or like your end goal, like to just be happy with what you have and not one of those people. And I feel so bad for people who have everything that, most people would dream of or a lot of people want, and they're so unhappy or trying to live vicarious through other people. And it's like just not a good situation. So I want you to be happy or content. Because when you have contentment, that's like peace in a way. Contentment and peace go hand in hand to me. So the inventory breaks down, and it literally, so I'm kind of really detailed with it. I'm trying not to make this too long, but this video might be a little long and it's important. So it's going to be long. It's worth it. But with home, so like I said earlier, with home economics, that goes with the flow of everything, like the ebb and flow of your home and your family. Now, even before I had my baby, I still had a flow of my home and how I ran things. So it actually made it a lot easier when I did become a mother. And one day I want to become a wife. When I become a wife, I can just, it's not so much piecing my husband and our kids into our life, but like they just flow and fit right in, flow and fit right in. We grow and expand to make room as more people come on in, but we have a flow. So having your home, that means, okay, we have a cleaning schedule because you don't want to get overwhelmed. Like when you really think about this, when you're achieving goals and doing different things, you can say, oh, yeah, I'm going to lock in with this. But then you can't forget you have, if you live by yourself, even if you live with your parents, like you want to contribute to your home and take care of it and not be dirty. So that helps with schedules and systems and things. And that can seem a little bit like overwhelming or tiring, but winging it sometimes, it's good. But it's still like, let's not wing it. Like we're grown, we're mature. If we can make a plan and have a flow of things, let's flow and not wing it. Let's flow, flowing over winging. So with home, we have to think about, okay, I'm speaking from a sense of myself being a mom and having my own home. So what days do we clean the house? Are we breaking it down throughout the week or doing one big clean at the beginning to get through the week? So how are we cleaning? What do you have in your refrigerator and your pantry? Because the biggest waste that I learned, and it's so annoying, is when you are grocery shopping and you buy something that you already had, or you buy something and then you tuck it in the back of your refrigerator, forget that it's there, and then it expires. And now you have to get it again, bring it up closer and hope you don't do the same thing. Or you have things that have already expired and they're taking up space. So it appears that you have more than what you actually do. And then when you go to the store, it's like, oh, there's so many things in there. It's like, oh, I think I saw that. And then you're like, oh, no, I forgot that. Now I have to go back. And for me, it's totally a risk because then I'm like, oh, well, since I'm here, I want this and that and that and that. And now you spend extra 100, 200, whatever dollars. And it's like, that didn't even need to happen. That extra trip took me out of my way, time, money, resources, all because I didn't know what I had at home. So you have to do an inventory of everything that you have at home. And it's also really beneficial because unfortunately I did have, me and my daughter had a flood in our home from the winter storm now 2 years ago. And well, no, isn't it 2 years ago? No, not 2 years ago yet, like a year and some change, like 15 months ago or so. And I was just like, oh my God, I realized I did not ever do inventory. Like I had inventory of things when I moved from my mom's house to California and California to Texas, but I didn't once I settled after the pandemic. I was just like, I'm building a home. I wasn't writing down the inventory for everything. And to have to do that and submit that to your insurance adjuster, oh, it was tiring. So the best thing that you can do is start an inventory of what you have in your home because that is very beneficial because they even ask you how many underwear and socks and shoes and all the little things that you have to be written off. You need to have inventory of it. So, yeah, have an inventory of what's in your home. Now, if you're starting from the beginning, that's beautiful, where you are literally just getting the keys to your first apartment, just moving out of your parents' house, or just moving out of whoever's home you're living in to get your own. You're in a sweet spot. But if you're already settled in and you have your own place already, still, make time and just kind of let that be a a here and there thing. Like, oh, I'm sitting in the living room. Let me just start writing down what's all in here and go from room to room and kind of do it when you think of it, but have it because it's beneficial. And then you also know like what you need to throw away or update or, just check on. The next inventory that you need to take account of is your accounts. So, like your debts and expenses. And that'll come into the templates later with knowing your account statuses and the APRs and your due dates and your cycle dates. Like all of that is very important. It's just as important as when, I don't know if they taught, if this is a thing that's taught in every school, but when they say how much is an egg. It's a reason that they even put that in the stores and online. When you online shop for groceries and things, you'll see that the price per like egg, for example, in a carton, like the overall price of the carton of eggs is like $3, but each egg is like 38 cents or something like that. That's important for a reason because that helps you to compare prices and to know what is best and what you need and where you can save money, or just it just helps with comparison, and it's very important. So doing that with your accounts is just as important because then you'll be able to see all your accounts laid out in one place instead of just going off of memory and saying, oh, I know I have to pay these bills on this date. But when you lay it all out with details for each of your accounts, it gives you a clearer picture and you see your balance, so you know how much you owe, not per month but as a whole. So then if you do have extra money, you can snowball it and roll it into your smallest like account that will, I want to call it a debt, smallest debt that you owe, smallest balance, and pay that off. And then hopefully, negotiate or be offered a credit line increase and not overuse it. And it just, continues to snowball. So then you'll turn bad debt or monthly expenses into more incoming cash or more discretionary cash or petty cash, and then be able to have a more balanced debt to income ratio, which will help you with getting loans or, your home and things like that. So it all really, the small details matter, and how you balance out and have an overview of your home and finances matters so much. Then you also want to state your current income. So what you have after taxes, you need to know that. And even something that, like, pro tip that I use when I originally moved here and I was trying to find a job because God moved me here before the pandemic started. I did not have a job when I first got here. I just had literally, I feel like I had like a dollar and a dream and faith. And so I went to the library every day. I was like, this is my office. I went to the library every day. I got a library card and, oh, excuse me. But I got a library card and I just like would pick a job that I was going to apply for. And then I had my apartments, like a list of apartments that I wanted, how much they cost. I budgeted in about how much it'll be for electricity and water, and I put that overall as the apartment like price and like how much for rent. But for me, rent includes everything. And then I would look at the jobs and I would say, oh, this is making X amount of dollars per hour, put it into paycheck salary, get the amount with your net income. Well, yeah, your net income will be after taxes. And another thing, so it's accurate ish, but I always found that I like had a little bit more money than what the calculator calculated, which was actually a surprisingly good thing. So that gives you a baseline. And it's not a baseline to max out or to try to say, oh, I can push it, but to live within that means. So living within that means is not living with that being your total. It's living a little bit below that where you can manage it and still have room to breathe. So I got how much I would have monthly at the end, biweekly and then monthly. and then how much the rent would be, deduct that, see how much I had left, and if that number made sense, where it's like, oh, okay, this makes sense for my other expenses and for my other interests. And you have to think about personal care. You got to buy shampoo and soap and deodorant and razors and all those little things where you have that wiggle room for that. And it's like, this makes sense to apply for, so you don't want to apply for a job that doesn't make sense for the lifestyle you're living, where you chose to live, what you can afford. If you have your car, can your car be maintained off of that salary? Can you buy shop where you want to shop off of that salary? Like, you have to think about it in that stance. And it's not, oh, well, I can hustle and make this and that, because some, you can argue all you want, some hustles are not guaranteed, just like tips are not always guaranteed, or commission is not always guaranteed, because sometimes you'll reach the goals and the quotas and closings, and sometimes you won't. But if you have a base to go off of, let that be your realistic goal, and anything else that comes in, that's your blessing money, that's your extra cash that you can divvy out accordingly. But we're going off of the base, and not what could be, what might be, what I'm planning to be. We're going off of what's definite. That's the number. So I always go off of that number and live from there. Then you weigh your options, like I said, with the lifestyle. So what you want, what you have, what you want, and then your middle ground. So what you have is like, okay, I don't have an apartment to pay for. I don't have any rent. I don't have a mortgage. Okay. So you live your life off of that. If you blessed to stay with your parents or family or whatever, and you can save up. So now you think about a savings plan, or if you have purchasing plans or whatever the case may be, what you want. So now we're future planning. So based off of where you are, what do you want? Write down what you want, the cost of what you want, and then getting the salary, what makes sense to get that. Then we want to focus too on, for the home, how to shop well and not just be on a budget, but to shop well for your lifestyle, going again off of the income that you have. And so it's a lot of things. Like, I believe in loyalty to companies and like brands, which is good. Like, yes, it's a million other companies and brands out there, but these loyalty programs are beneficial. It doesn't mean that you're locked in, you can't shop anywhere else, of course, but loyalty over time with the companies that are actually trying to retain you, it matters. And even like, I love Target. I've been shopping at Target since I was like 13 years old. And after a while, you get the app and they calculate like your purchases. So of course they want you to shop. So now it's triggering, oh, if we give her a coupon for $25 off of $100 purchase, she's going to come in and it's a chance she might go over $100. But because she wants to get $25 off of 100, she's going to come in. We know we got the $100, budget, so to speak, and then giving her $25 off of that. So even if she spends $100, okay, $75 purchase. If she spends $120 purchase, we got the $100. But they're making deals with me, right? If you think about it in that sense. And then that's when you go, and I love these apps because you can literally premeditate your shopping cart and see how much it'll be. And that helps me a lot with budgeting too, because sometimes I can't control myself in the store. I can't handle it. I just love it. And I start hearing, like, especially when I first moved here, I started hearing like Ariana Grande song, I Want It, I Got It, like, and Throw It in the Bag, like the Fabulous song. And I'm just like, yeah, Target will take you away. And so a lot of stores will do that, but Target's my favorite. And so, yeah, just shopping online, you kind of already know your budget. And then it's no pressure to like get extra stuff or feel like people are cart watching. So you got to get more or get less or whatever the case may be. You can apply all your digital coupons and just pick it up and go, or be disciplined, practice your discipline, have your grocery list. So now you're going in there with your big girl, big boy pants on, and you got your list and you get what you need. Now you've accomplished successfully going into the store, getting only what you need and leaving. So you get your deal and go, and then you get to either spend $100 to get the $25 off, and then take that extra 25 out of the 100 that you would have spent and reallocate that money. If that makes sense, you get to reallocate the difference, because then your total will be 75 or 76, whatever. And whatever the difference is from your $100 budget, you can get gas, treat yourself. I'm a fan of treating yourself. Treat yourself. Or add it to your savings account, or invest in a stock. Just so many options, but choose what makes sense for the bigger picture. So that is how you see it clearly and just kind of mapping it out. So I'm really excited about this, actually, and I reached the end of all my points, and I did it in less than an hour, so I'm really happy. But yeah, the template is coming soon. In the next video, I'm going into the life choices that lead to milestones and personal achievements, and then you decide what applies, to help you decide what applies and what doesn't, because everything truly isn't for everybody. So you have to know. And I can definitely say one of those, every now, college was for me. I love college, but criminal justice, I thought I was going to go into criminal justice, wasn't for me. But did I go to school, a university, and get a meal plan, room and board, and tuition and books? Yeah, I did, because I wanted to go to college, and I flew out the nest and went to Kentucky with a totally different plan. But I feel like if Kentucky was for me, maybe I would have just like followed through. So I like to follow through with things. But yeah, I learned from that how to make better decisions and really think about what I want and stick with it. So I hope this video did help. One of the introduction to the series did help someone, and I cannot wait to post the next video and then have that template to you all soon, and hopefully hear back and like, follow, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell, and then comment and let me know like what you think about what I said and how it helped you, if you applied anything, as the series comes, and even just from this conversation now, if it just opened your eyes and your mind to see things a little bit differently, to prepare you to grow from where you are, or to make some adjustments, whatever it might be. I want to know. So I can't wait to see y'all in my next video.